like nobody appreciates dancing to the intro anymore. Hello and welcome to Crying in the Book Club episode 49, The Wise Beasts of Wizarding Wisdoms. I am Emily, I am your host, and I'm here with my bestest friends in the whole world. I'm here with John Luke Bobbill
That is not true.
and Alex Hansiak. Alex, has been mouthing things, and I'm just gonna assume that something has happened here. And we're also here with special guest Chad Waller. Hi, Chad.
I heard we were doing gay furry stuff, and I was like, "Oh, I want in on this. I have a brand."
I do love because I should have pitched getting you on this episode based on the fact that I was making everyone read gay furry manga, but I didn't, just out of like expediency. But then when I mentioned in the group chat that we were reading this, you did immediately hop on the episode, and
I hopped on the fur pile.
we have a rule that says that anytime Chad wants to come on the show, we literally can't say no, because why would we? And I'm so glad that you wanted to come on this episode, because I at a certain point I did briefly consider just kind of extending an invitation, but I didn't. It was going to be very short notice. I didn't want to assume. But we have made this happen, and fortunately and unfortunately, I have gotten my co-hosts to read gay furry manga because we needed something short, because I'm about to be moving and we needed to fit in another episode fairly quickly. Well, I will say, we're here to talk about, and I said the title wrong at the end of the last episode because I wasn't looking at any reference, so I was just relying on my memory, which it's a bad thing to do. But we are talking about this episode, The Wise Beasts of Wizarding Wisdoms. Apparently, there is a question.
Why are the animals talking? I don't get it. They're just. How does that?
There's this aesthetic choice that some authors make, and it's called sexy.
I mean, look, I mean, like, technically we will get to the fact that the premise of this work is that a wizard chose to bestow the shape and intellect of humans upon beasts. So presumably that included giving them human language.
Alex, did you skip the prologue?
I did actually skip the prologue. I went straight to
my
chapter
God.
1.
Hold on, wait, Alex, really?
Yeah.
You can't trust this guy with anything.
Oh, I mean, it's literally like 2 pages.
Is there anything else in it?
Every time we read a manga, something goes wrong. I skipped 30 issues of Berserk, and Alex skipped the first 2 pages.
Yeah, it's like the same. I'm gonna be just as lost as you are. Yeah. I'm sure.
I wasn't lost at all in Berserk.
I feel like you weren't that lost, honestly, just as far as this book goes. I don't know that you're that lost skipping the prologue. Like, the prologue is just sort of the author taking the time to pretend that there needs to be a conceit for a furry manga. I don't necessarily think that that's true.
It's like Chad's main criticism of that Star Wars porn fanfic I wrote once, which is that there's too much world building.
Oh, yeah.
That's what this writer is doing.
And not enough suction cups on Sebulba's dick.
Not that the prologue bothers me in any way. I think it's fine. I also think it is entirely unnecessary because, I don't know, you could just start off with a furry world. The people who are going to be, like, willing to accept a furry manga are either going to do it or they're not.
No one questions Winnie the Pooh, you know? That's just the way it is.
Or they're going to be forced to talk about it for a podcast. The Wise Beasts of the Wizarding Wisdoms is a single volume furry BL (parentheses boys love) manga published in the United States by Seven Seas Entertainment. I initially referred to this as a one-shot, and I after conversation with John Luke in the group chat, have realized that there is a discrepancy between the Western comics definition of one shot and the manga definition of one shot. For manga, one shot just means it's just a single volume, which does tend to be over 200 pages, but also they're much smaller pages because of the way manga works. But anyway, I felt bad when I said, like, oh, we're just going to be doing a one shot, and then it turned out to be more than some of us were expecting to read for the episode. But I also think it's a pretty breezy read, so I don't feel that bad about it. It's not... This book is not particularly dense. By the way, I should also mention, boys love as a genre denotates content focused on intimacy between male characters, but is distinct from yaoi in its lack of explicit sexual material, usually. And there's a lot of, like, discourse and conversation with, like, the delineation of boys love and yaoi, and we're not gonna get into that. This is officially categorized as a BL manga, so that's just what I'm going to say that it is, because that's what it is. It was written and illustrated by Nagabe, most known for his work on a series called The Girl from the Other Side. I haven't read that, but I hear that it's pretty good.
Is that the, like, manga series that's like the same concept as Stalker?
No, that's I did mention that in a previous episode. That's Other Side Picnic.
Oh, you're right. That's what. Yeah. That's
and
what it is.
I do recommend Other Side Picnic. I've read some of the manga for that and watched some of the anime, and it is quite good. So I do recommend that, but it is distinct from The Girl from the Other Side. I don't know. I don't actually know anything about The Girl from the Other Side. Nagabe, I know mostly for the gay furry manga, because there's this, and then there's also another another book that's like it's not an anthology like this one is, but it's like a single volume story that I'm like halfway through that I need to get. I need to finish, but I mostly know Nagabe for gay furry manga. And also, I found out while doing research for this episode that Nagabe is like just a few months younger than me, and I don't like that. I'm not comfortable with that at all.
That's always upsetting.
I don't like it in any way, shape, or form. I was born in April of 1993, and apparently Nagabe was born in August of 1993. Don't like that at all. The official premise of this series is: hidden away deep within the woods, far from the prying eyes of the world, lies the Wisdom School of Wizarding. There, beasts of all kinds gather to live, learn, and to love. A long time ago, a wizard chose to bestow the shape and intellect of humans upon beasts, creating the demi-human tribes. The demi-humans sought knowledge, so they built a grand academy for the study of wizardry, named Wisdoms, in honor of their creator. The Wise Beasts of the Wizarding Wisdoms is an anthology series, it's an anthology single volume. I don't know if there's ever going to be any more of it, with each chapter focusing on two characters, mostly. Like there are other people, but or other critters, but it's mostly focused on two characters at the School of Wizarding. Chapter 1, Alan and Eddington, a cat and a hare. Chapter 2, Florio and Nicole, a goat and a gray wolf. Chapter 3, Fermat and Emile, two dragons. Chapter 4, Marley and Colette, a red deer and a lizard. Doug and Huey, a carrion crow and an Indian peafowl. Chapter 6, Alhoff and Carreras, two vampire bats. Chapter 7, Cromwell and Benjamin, a unicorn and a griffin. And Chapter 8, Mouchley and Charles, an Asian black bear and a human. Many of the stories intersect with one another, with details from previous chapters becoming relevant in a later chapter. Each chapter ends with a little info card about the species of animal that starred in each chapter. So my first question is, what is your fursona? You all have to answer, and you do all technically have an answer because I've drawn you as furries before. But you can also, you can change that answer. You don't have to go with the one that I illustrated previously. That was like 4 years ago.
Mine's the dorky little orange dog I use in VR chat at this point.
What kind of dog?
I think it's a border collie. It's technically like some goofy amalgamation of animal parts. It's just the way I have it set up. It looks like a fluffy little border collie.
I love that. I love that. Happy for you, John Luke and Alex.
Well, I just want it to be known that mine was foisted upon me, so I haven't put much thought into this.
A fursona can be assigned to you. Unfortunately, you know, if you refuse to pick a fursona will be assigned to you.
Mm-hmm. But it's a meerkat, and I wasn't even on the episode of the previous podcast where that was determined for me. So
I actually didn't even remember that you were not there for that. But
yeah, it was you three.
You know, unless do you have a suggestion for a better animal?
I have never put a single second of thought into it.
I want you to put a single second of thought into it.
I'm pretty happy with the meerkat because I like the way that you drew it.
I want you to search your heart, and I want you to see if there's something that other than meerkat that might make you.
I simply don't relate to animals in that way.
I just need you to think about it. Think about animals and the qualities that they possess, and if there's an animal that you feel like you relate to. While I ask Alex, what is your fursona?
I like the dog that you drew for mine.
I drew you as like a Doberman, and I do like that as a pick for you.
I'm happy to keep it.
Yes. I'm so glad.
It's weird because I don't think you have to like really identify or anything. Like, I just started using that avatar, and after a bit, I was like, boy, I really like the shape and
look. Sometimes I think it's just like a gut feeling, you know, like.
And all of a sudden, I've been using it for a while now, and I get worried when it updates because I'm afraid it's gonna break or like change, and I won't be able to use it anymore, and I'll have to find something else,
or you have to buy it,
or I'll have to buy it, which I don't want to do.
Mm-mm.
My fursona is the dying Garfield plushie in Alex's background. I relate to the dying Garfield.
You know, I accept this answer. Truly. My next question is, did you guys hate this book?
Oh, the silence is not.
You can be honest. Whoever's editing, leave in that pause, please. But you can be honest.
I'd say, like, I mean, we'll get to everything. I didn't hate it. There were just a lot of stories that I was like, nope. And but it's interesting because, like, the writing, I feel like if it didn't make certain creative decisions, I feel like it would have been something where I'm like, oh, this is cute. But every time they made a decision, it was like, oh, let's do this. Oh, those people who, like, everyone thinks they're brothers, let's just have them make out. Let's just do that.
Alex, you do not spend enough time on AO3, my friend.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna talk about, because this is incredibly tropey, you know, for better or for worse.
I will say with that story, it had me Google, hey, do vampire bats actually vomit blood into each other's mouths when they eat too much? And the answer is yes.
Yes, they do.
You think Nagabe would lie to you?
Yes.
Oh, well.
It's fiction.
It's cute fiction. In that story, how, like, they, you know.
When it comes to, like, the little details added at the end of the chapter, I don't know. For me, that's like, oh, yeah, like, you actually care about, like, the weird things about these animals. So the idea that would have been, like, not real never occurred to me.
Yeah. And I mean, in theory, it's like, oh, the bats do it all the time. But then, what if they actually kissed and they actually enjoyed it? And they're like that moment is on paper, like, oh, wonderful. Except they're so brother coded. It's just like,
They're not. It's not. They're not
They're
actually
not
related.
brothers. They just
No, they're
look
not.
alike.
But they also say like everybody thinks we're brothers because we're so close. We're just like brothers. And then they like 2 pages later they're like making out. And
Yeah,
it's
this is a classic manga trope, Alex.
Yeah, I mean,
they
yeah,
love that shit.
Yeah, John Luke is correct. This is sort of a classic manga trope, but I will just say, like, for the record, they aren't related. And as someone who has been previously in a relationship with someone who, like, we would frequently get mistaken for sisters instead of dating, I guess I do have like a specific outlook on that concept. Even if like I get that in the manga they are being deliberately there is like deliberate brocon coding.
As someone who has only seen the Boss Baby in Citrus, it was very like Citrus.
It's more like Citrus than the Boss Baby.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
will say it is
Damn.
categorically very much more like Citrus than the Boss Baby. But I guess the question is, did you guys hate reading this book? I want everybody to go individually.
There were moments when I did, for sure. But
I believe that.
I would say on the whole, no. But there's that moment at the end of I think it's chapter 3, the dragon one, where the professor like writes out the variables and he's like, well, what if the variables are L, O, V, and E, and he spells out love on the chalkboard? And I was like, I wanted to punch a wall. I was so mad at how dumb that was.
Well, I feel like that probably was that may have come across more subtle in the original Japanese, but I can't prove it.
But on the whole, I would say, moments aside, I didn't hate it.
Mm-hmm.
I have a more nuanced take on it. I'm the enlightened centrist of gay
Oh, hell yeah.
manga.
Oh yeah.
Now there's an epitaph.
So Chad, what did you hate? Did you hate this?
Hate is a strong word.
Yes.
I'm not gonna quote what you said because like I don't know if you want to be on the record saying that, but you indicated in your the way that you talked about this to me that you did not totally love it.
That I wouldn't say I totally loved it. I was trying to read this with a slightly different look at romance fiction, having recently watched that ContraPoints video on
which
Twilight.
I also watched almost all of before we started this recording. I have like half an hour left. It's like a 3-hour video, so give me a break.
Right. And so the kind of relationship to desire and plot are a little different because these are short formatted romance stories. And so, okay, I have to expect different things out of them. I have so many questions about like the world building and how things tie together, and it doesn't give a shit.
That's not what this is about at all. Like,
No.
we get the literal barest.
I don't know why it's even there. Other than magic potion for
I
the
don't know.
first
It's
one.
literally just like you get just the barest scraps of setup for the world building because it's not about the world building.
But so looking at it from like it's like, okay, a lot of characters, maybe desiring something they can't have or they want but are ashamed to admit, and it's like, okay, that kind of like internal struggle. Now that I know how to better look for it, it makes sense. I get why people might like this. It's not for me. I thought the dialogue on and off was kind of bad, and it reminded me of someone in my writers group who only reads like translated manga and writes like manga characters, and it's like, dude, I need you to have a normal conversation with a human, like for 5 minutes, please, so you can replicate that speech patterns.
I have a question. This what we read is the official translation, right?
I'm pretty sure. Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, like I what I own is the official translation, and what I sent to you guys, I didn't read through the whole link, but everything looked pretty close to what I had. So I don't believe this was a fan translation. Especially because it's like a single, like normally you get fan translations for like things that are like serialized, whereas like a single volume thing, like you can kind of just wait for the official translation, unless what everyone read was the official translation.
I guess I wish it had done more or had more to say, because it felt like it was either trying to play around with taboo subjects, but it didn't do anything with them other than like really surface level. Oh, what if it's cute? And then you have, okay, well, there are different types of love, but it's really not going into like the two dragon stories. Like, oh, is this like a familial love kind of thing? Is the student crushing on the teacher and vice versa? Because one of those is not okay.
Alex, I do want to know, did you hate?
No, I mean, again, as Chad said, hate is a strong word. I just think it was, on the whole, there were a lot of stories where I was like, okay, and then there was a moment where I'm like, no. And I think that happened in like 5 of the 8 of them. And then, I mean, what was there? It's also like, why do it in a magical school other than the prologue I didn't read, which is
No,
all like,
literally,
hey, this is why it's magical. That's why they
quite
can talk.
literally
But it's
like
like,
2
it's not
pages
really
that
needed.
just say,
No.
one time there was a wizard, and this wizard decided to make anthro furries, and the anthro furries were so excited about this that they decided to study magic, and they created a school they named after the wizard that gave them demi-human powers. Like literally, it is the most bare bones that any world building could possibly be, like, give you. You really didn't miss anything.
I am glad. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I
you
actually read
get
it before while we were
You're
talking. So
caught
yeah,
up
like
now.
caught up on that. But in like, I like the format of it. I like doing the short story thing. I just don't love what's in the short stories for the most part. It's like
Sure.
I think if this was one big story on it, I might have liked it less, but it was like at least a few different ones. It was like, oh, cool. And it was, consistent in what they were doing there. So,
Sure.
yeah, not hate for sure.
Yeah, I mean, literally, I only picked this because when I think of things that are short, this is one of the first things that comes to mind, because I don't know, like, and I don't know a lot of there are quite a bit of one shot manga, but it's not something that I read a lot of. So this is just, we needed something short, so I decided to subject you all to this, because I do actually, as many issues, I do enjoy this book. I think that it's pretty good and cute, and I like the art style. What are you guys' thoughts about, like, magic school as a genre is maybe not quite the word, but as like a thing, as like a subcategory of fiction? Like, do any of you typically enjoy magic school stuff? I know I liked it when I was a teenager. I don't care as much about it now, because I care even less about it I care even less about fictional school than I cared about, like, the real school when I was in it. I'm just curious where everyone else lands on, because this is often described, and I described it as, like, gay furry Harry Potter, because Harry Potter is, like, the benchmark for magic school fiction.
When it should be the Owl House.
I mean, yeah, like, there are much better series that do it in much better ways, but unfortunately, Harry Potter is the thing that people.
I mean, I don't think I've read or watched or in general consumed a magical school series other than Strange Academy, which I only read because it had Nico from the Runaways in it. Other than that, I don't think I've consumed anything in that genre since I was like 12. So I'm like completely indifferent, I guess. Like,
Definitely doesn't seem like your bag.
well, sure, but I'm not foreclosing on the idea that there could be good magic school stuff out there that I am not aware of.
I would say Deadly Class is magic school. It's just it's a
Okay,
different
sure.
coat of paint, but it is the similar
It's the
style
same.
story.
You're right. You're right. It's the
Yeah.
same. It's structurally the same. But Deadly Class fell off a fucking cliff. So I don't know if that's the genre's fault necessarily.
No.
But yeah, I guess I guess you could throw that in there. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there are.
I'm not typically a fan.
Well, it's not even that I'm not typically a fan. It's just that I have, even when I was younger, like, other than Harry Potter, I don't think. I mean, in like the early 2000s, like when I was like in elementary school and early middle school, like there were a shit ton of like Harry Potter style knockoffs that were Magic
Mm-hmm.
School, but I couldn't
Charlie
even
Bone.
tell. I'm not familiar with that one, to be honest. I
I'm
like
sure.
couldn't.
Look, that reference landed for literally one person in the audience, and thank God.
Yeah, but I legit couldn't tell you like the names of any of them. Magic the Gathering did a magical school set a few years ago. The draft format was pretty fun, so
Oh.
I don't know. I guess I'm like, I think I'm probably net positive on the genre, but I have so little exposure to it. So
I mean, that's fine, and you know, it is sort of a genre that is designed to appeal to a very specific point in time, in a person's like mental maturity. So it would, you know, it makes sense that these types of stories certainly don't appeal to you now.
they should do Euphoria, but at a magic school.
Okay,
So
actually,
really,
yes.
you know, sex that shit up a little bit. You know.
Actually,
Too
yes.
bad the show's never coming back because no one
Maybe
wants
that's
to act
maybe
in
that's
it.
a good thing.
No, my life is fucking ruined if that show doesn't come back.
Chad, how do you feel about Magical School series? I know you recently reread Harry Potter.
Recently would be like 5 to 6 years ago now, if I'm being honest.
Okay, I guess I thought
I
it
reread
was.
that before I moved into the house, and I've been here a little over 4 years.
For some, yeah, I guess the pandemic warps memory because I was thinking
It
it was
sure
more like.
does.
I was thinking it was more like 2 years ago, but it makes sense that it was like 4 years ago. But that's still pretty recent.
It's recent enough for me to. I'm kind of in your boat where when I was younger and I was
Mhm.
in school, it was very captivating to think, hey, what if school was actually kind of neat and I could learn like
Yeah.
spells?
Yeah.
As I've gotten older, it definitely does a lot less for me. I need a lot more reason to be there than just wish fulfillment.
Mm-hmm.
I need the adult characters to be compelling and well written because I don't really vibe with a lot of young adult or children's fiction anymore.
Yeah.
And if I do, like it's got to have more going on, or at least be like really well written.
Yeah.
And I don't think Harry Potter is some of those things.
No.
J.K. Rowling being a shitbag notwithstanding.
Yeah, that's just kind of like additional.
I remember when I read The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss, which is kind of another magic school, a little different. It tried to be a little more adult because it was more like a college, and the main
Okay.
character spent a lot of time not being crazy well written, and then also being like, how do I pay for school? It's a good thing I am a master violin player, whatever fucking instrument he played, and just made a lot of money playing music, which is horseshit. No one makes a lot of money playing music anytime. And that's another. It's like, well, Harry Potter did a lot of this already, and the new stuff you're adding, I don't find very compelling. And then so when we go to the Owl House, which I feel like has more things to say about the world it's constructing. The fish out of water protagonist is a lot more interesting because she doesn't fit in more than like Harry doesn't fit in with his sibling or his classmates.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it being a cartoon, the expectations are different. So I like the Owl House quite a bit, but on the whole, yeah, I don't get as much out of Magic School as I used to, and I'm okay with that. Like I've definitely like grown out of the that kind of storytelling.
Yeah.
It's fine to become an adult eventually.
Alex, do you have any opinions on Magic School?
Yeah, I mean, I also read Harry Potter, and I haven't reread it in like probably 10 years. So
I don't know that I'd recommend
Chad's
it.
memory. Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's less and less reasons
Chad
to reread
can
Harry
remember
Potter.
it for you.
Exactly. I mean, like the Percy Jackson series isn't exactly like magic thing, but it is like mythology and in the school setting, which I love those books when they were
Percy
coming out.
Jackson
But again,
rules.
haven't read those in like 5-10 years as well. But I like the setting. And I like school settings in general in stuff. Like if the Teen Titans are going to school, I'm like, whoa, that's so cool. They're in high school. Oh my gosh, great. It's just such a great like vehicle for drama and sort of that coming of age story, which I really vibe with.
It certainly can be, like, you know, a la Riverdale.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And here it's like I just feel like the magic is like not involved in it.
Yeah, we
It's
really
not.
like we didn't we don't see hardly any of the magic at this school, which I will say is kind of a like disappointment as far as the genre goes. Like you would kind of hope to see more magic, even though like it is focused on these like interpersonal stories. Like you would hope to see more magic.
It's very prominent in exactly one of these stories,
Yeah.
which I'm sure we'll get to.
How do you guys feel like this compares to Beastars, another furry manga, which we read on the previous iteration of this podcast? So I know everyone actually read it at least like 4 years ago. But just based on your like your memory, your feelings, your impressions, like
Beastars. I mean, it's a little different because it was one sort of story thing. It's not
yeah.
a bunch of shorts, but I think it did like similar trope stuff, but in a way that was just I enjoyed way more and was a little more like it felt like it had more of a point to it. Maybe that's a little harsh to these stories because they are
No,
short stories
I
about
don't
things.
just like I don't think that you're wrong that like to say that Beastars is trying to say something and the wise beast of Wizarding Wisdoms is not trying to say something. Like these are just factual statements. It's not a value judgment on either series. Whether you prefer making a statement or not making a statement, you know, like that's one or the other. But no, like Beastars is trying to say something, and this is just, you know, like being cute and using like furry stuff for aesthetic. So
I feel like I have a very different memory of Beastars because for me, Beastars is just like,
well, you didn't like Beastars.
well, yeah, but Beastars was just like author got horny about furries, and this is the same as that to me.
Well, but it's like it's at least like you know it's horny about furries, but like it's you know there's some nuance to it.
I don't think there is. I understand that Beastars is further on the continuum in the sense that it has like a full cast and like a plot. But like I don't know, conceptually they're about the same. They're about the same to me.
I look on premise maybe, but like you read a single volume of Beastars versus like I feel like you're like I feel like it's disingenuous to say that Beastars is not trying to say something just because you read like the first part of the story and didn't get like didn't get like what the because it's like God, it's like over 13 volumes, so you got like like less than a tenth of the story. So to say that it's like not saying something is.
But if I'm going to compare them all, I'm only able to go off the frame of reference that I have.
I know.
Right?
I'm just.
So.
I know. I'm just.
I
saying,
don't doubt that it like says something like later on. I'm sure it does, but I read the first volume and it wasn't saying much other than the dude got horny about a deer.
Sure. Well, I mean, the
also not a value judgment.
The creator of Beastars is a woman, so
okay, sorry.
But anyway, but no, I just think that the assumption that Beastars is not saying something based on your impression of the first volume is maybe a bit hasty. Is kind of what I was trying to say is like, you know, I know you can only judge Beastars based off the one volume, but that doesn't mean that there couldn't be more. And I feel like you're like cutting off the concept that there could be more to Beastars just because you didn't like the single volume you read.
So, like, Wize Beast is a handful of M&Ms, and then Beastars is like a cake you made using boxed ingredients, and one is better than the other, but they're both junk food.
I don't. I'm not gonna agree that Beastars is junk food, but I think that your comparison is fairly apt, so I'll stand by.
Cake's not good for you, Emily.
Look, just you can enjoy it. Like things can have value without being nutritionally good for you.
Sure, like I like a good handful of M&Ms too. I'm not saying I'm no knock to good old Mars candy there, but I'm just saying, you know, if you give me M&Ms or cake, I'm gonna put the M&Ms on the cake. I'm going to loophole the shit out of this metaphor.
I'm not a big M&M's fan. Like, unless they're the peanut M&M's, I don't think I would eat like a handful of M&M's.
What about the Marshall Mathers M&Ms?
See,
He's got some bangers. Not
Yes.
many, but there are a few.
I'm actually most a fan of mini M&Ms
Ooh,
because
big same.
I feel like mini M&Ms, you get the perfect ratio of candy coating.
Oh,
to
totally
chocolate
disagree.
center.
They're the best. They're the best.
No, I like the
Yeah.
the crunchy chocolate, like the candy outside. So.
Ooh, yeah, I'm not. See, that's part of the problem with like. That's why I like the peanut M&Ms is because it's like a chocolate covered.
Because they
peanut,
nut in your
which is-
mouth.
Well, that too. It's
I
fucking
do
awesome.
like a peanut M&M.
They are the best M&Ms.
But I'm not big on either mini or standard M&Ms.
This is fucked up.
Not my preferred receptacle.
What did you guys think of the art style for the book? Because I mean I'll be upfront. I like the art in this book a lot. I think it's very cute, and I like the method of like anthropomorphizing animals that is taken in this book.
I agree. I think the book looks really good. I actually really like the line work. Like, I think the shading is really interesting. I don't know. I like how, like, basically every page I think looks pretty good. Obviously, some of them are more like, you know, role filler pages rather than like trying to like stun you or whatever. But I think the way the artist draws like facial expressions is fantastic. Like, there's so much that's communicated that not through the dialogue, which I think is one of the book's strong suits.
I think it helps that I'm pretty sure that this was not. I think that this was published as like a single like graphic novel essentially, as opposed to being like published on like a serialized schedule. So I think that probably that generally books with shockingly books with more time and effort into the being able to be given into the each book results in better work.
I also like that it kind of the style is kind of rough. Like the like the way that like the lines around the characters' faces and stuff aren't always fully consistent. And I actually like you can always tell like it's not to the point where you can't tell which character is which or who's who. Well, except with the vampire bats, but I think that's by design.
Yeah.
But I really like it when comics do that, when it's like there's not like a strict adherence to like everything is like 100% in the lines at all times. I like that. I like it when you're like artists are able to like get a little rough with it because I like that style. I just like that style of drawing. Like, obviously, it's not going to be everyone's cup of tea, but I do really enjoy that.
Yeah. I think the place where it does stand out is in the like the design of the characters in this book, and like they have so much personality to them, and the outfits they're wearing and all that stuff, and it like definitely my high point of reading this.
It's a strong use of color, like the really darks to really lights, especially to show contrast between the characters. I know the big standout would be the second story with the wolf that's like not only really big and towering, but like almost pitch black, and then the little I think it was a goat, being like totally white with very little details, or the lizard and I think it was a deer. The way those two are rendered, very very stark differences to really kind of showcase that hey, one's cold blooded and one is warm blooded.
I also like the way that like the wolf's fur is drawn around his face. Like I love that it like he has like he really does come across as threatening, even though he's like a lazy piece of shit. But I really like I really like that aspect of it too. I do agree with Chad that like I think the art is good throughout the whole thing, but the second story is like I think the high point for like the visual contrast and stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely that one is I like all of the stories.
Well, and the last one I would say too, the one with the bear and the human, because like I like the constant contrast between the bear and the human. I think that one is very cute. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess that we did just kind of have this question, but did you guys have a favorite character or a favorite chapter?
Yeah, definitely chapter 8 is my favorite chapter. I felt like that was the one that was the most substantial. I think a lot of these are kind of throwaway, and not throwaway in a bad way, but in the sense that it's just like you read it once, you get the gist of it, and it's like, okay, that was like that was cute, and like that was a piece of fluff, to borrow a fan fiction term. But like chapter 8 was actually the one that felt like it had like a complete narrative and like character arcs, because the both characters felt like they were a little bit more fleshed out in ways that beyond just how they related directly to one another. And it's not like the most deep or like unique storytelling. It's like, the human is like insecure about his freckles, and feels like he stands out and is uncomfortable with like certain aspects of his body. So like, but like there's stuff there that's actually like interesting and compelling, and like is the closest the book gets to like having some sort of deeper themes. And I like that a lot. And also it's cute. I like the very blatant Winnie the Pooh reference with the bear just lying in the sun doing nothing, and the human being like, what, you're just gonna sit here and do nothing? And the bear basically gives him the Winnie the Pooh line of how doing nothing is like the best thing you can do. And
Cute.
I'm with you there, buddy. I'm with you there.
So true, bestie.
I would agree. I think the last story is probably the best one for basically everything Jean-Luc said. I did think the second story was a nice standout. I felt like there was an element of threat to that one and like tension that a lot of the other stories did not have.
Yeah, most of these stories I would not describe as having tension necessarily.
Right. And so like
some
having
of them, but most of them not really.
the the wolf like getting ready to like sleep chomp on the goat, and then the goat being kind of like, I kind of like this because
Goat's
it's a little
into it.
hot, but I hope I don't get like murdered from this. And you're just like, oh, I wonder how hard the wolf's gonna bite before the wolf wakes up.
I mean,
There's an actual element of tension there.
It's kind of like Hellraiser. Like you're kind of into it, but you're also like, don't fuck me up too bad. It's.
I mean, the comparison to Beastars is also very much there, because like there's that's kind of like the central conceit of the relationship between Legoshi and Haru is like.
See, the difference is Beastars takes 200 pages to get there, and this does it in like 15.
Well, yeah, because this is an anthology.
I know. I'm
not a slow burn. I like all of these chapters, honestly. I really like chapter 2 with the wolf and the goat because I think it's cute. I like the bear and the human. I think it's interesting to, like, in the very last chapter include a human character. But I just also, I don't know, like, I like that all of the characters in each chapter are so different, so you get like all of these little like minuscule peeks into what life is like for like different kinds of beasts at the school. And so I don't know, I like, not that there's that much there, but I think that it is cute. But as we kind of mentioned, several of these stories.
Wait, Alex, did you have a favorite?
Oh yes,
It was number 8. It was funny because number 1 was my least favorite easily. Like it was, maybe because it was the first one, and not that I didn't know what to expect, but I was also like, oh, okay. And then that one.
It's a weird plot to intro your series on, especially if you're not someone who's like used to BL.
Yeah. So then ending on number 8, which is like a nice, wholesome, like nuanced story, and then there's a little bit of like sadness at the end when they're like going their separate ways because spring is coming, I think spring is coming or winter's coming. So there's a seasonal change
because they're
spring
on like winter break from each of their respective magic schools.
Yeah. It's just really, really cute. And I think the best written one of all of it too. So
yeah, as we mentioned, this series this anthology has several stories with plot elements or themes that could be considered problematic. A love potion, a predator-prey dynamic, a student crush on a teacher. That's even like the degree to which that is even a crush is also ambiguous. But also, just in general, how did you feel reading this? When I picked this, I had not reread it since I read it the first time, and I'm fairly desensitized to these sorts of tropes in anime and manga, so it didn't even most of it didn't even occur to me before recommending, because I hadn't thought about this book in like 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, you're just like roofing a guy is normal to me. You know,
No,
I
I
do it all
mean,
the
no, not that
time.
it's normal, but that I am accustomed to the use of these tropes in manga and anime. And also, look, I'm not gonna be an apologist here, but I also think referring to what actually textually happened as roofying is a bit extreme.
It's pretty. No, I think it's
the
way like
mechanics.
it's straight the same.
It's pretty
No,
much
like-
1-to-1.
What, like the action, I mean, like the intensity, because like we get at the end of the story, like he was fairly conscious for a considerable amount of it and retained his memories, so it is, I
But
feel
that's not the point. Okay, the mechanics behind that love potion
The-
are dire.
It's bad.
He just fucked it up when he made it.
yeah, but I meant literally in the execution, it is not as bad as roofying. In the intent, yeah, I'll give, like, I'm very, very willing to concede that point.
It's like, and like it just worked out that the person getting roofied was like into the person who roofied them.
But that's also like, that's part, like, again, this is not a defense, but that's also like part of like the conceit of the like the trope, I guess, like in a way. Is anyone else picking up on what I'm
No,
trying to say?
I know what you mean. I was genuinely just shocked to see it in something that is like commercially available, because I'm like, when in my notes I wrote that this is that the whole series is very AO3 core, like in the sense that like I've read stuff like this in fanfics where it's like, you know, it's like a fan work that's not like officially distributed, where you can do stuff like that. But
a lot of the tropey elements in this series feel very fanficky.
yeah, 100%. And I don't have a problem with, you know, I don't have a problem with a lot of like, I guess, to use the terminology of the question, problematic elements in stories. I think roofing somebody is a little far for me, even for me. Like there's some pretty, you know, like it's fine if people are reading that in fiction. I don't really care, but like that one was a little extreme. And after that, there's some other stuff that's like, you know, abusive and manipulative, but not. It never goes back to that extreme of the first chapter. I don't. Well, I guess other than the like professor student relationship, but even that one is like, it's not actually happening. It's like,
we'll put a pin in the conversation about the student teacher one, because that one's weird. Like love potions, it's obviously like gross and bad, but it's also like there is like a little part of me that like can kind of conceptualize the idea of like being a kid at a magic school who doesn't totally understand the ramifications of what they're doing, and maybe gives their crush a love potion, and then luckily in this exact instance things did not go horribly awful.
But only because it's fictional, right?
Yeah.
Like you, like I agree with you 100%. Like I can understand it because like in the context of a fictional story, like
if it were
it's
really
totally
happening,
yeah, in the context of a fictional story, it's totally fine for people to engage in like fantasies that would be like at best dubiously like consensual in the real world.
Yeah.
And at worst, you know.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
So it's fun. Like my problem with it isn't from a moral standpoint necessarily. Like fiction, doing the stuff in fiction is fine. It's just like, I think you can still be clear-eyed about like what the story is actually saying though.
Yeah.
So like it's fine to like, again, like it's fine to be like, yeah, I think it's exciting when fiction, you know, does things that you like, portrays things that you couldn't do in real life. You know, being drugged is not my thing per se, but like it's fine to, like if the writer wants to write that story, it's
there
like,
are people who are into it.
No, I know. I get it. Like I'm not like saying that like
Yeah.
like it's like I'm not making a moral judgment. I'm
No,
just
of
saying
course,
that
of course,
like
of course.
in the context of fiction, it's fine to do. And I also understand like why somebody might read that and then close the book and be like, I'm not going any further in this because
Yeah.
it is like enormously kind of fucked. I mean, the second story is also kind of fucked in a similar way. The second story is more like directly like the predator prey dynamic is more like directly consensual
There's a
from the
lot.
jump, but
I mean, there's also like a lot more risk of like physical harm in that one. So like, I don't know. There's also like,
yeah, sure, but the carrot it's a goat, right, in that
yeah,
story. So like the consent of the story or the conceit of the story, we
yeah.
should say, is that there's a wolf and a goat, and the wolf falls asleep, and in the wolf's in his sleep, he like wraps his mouth around the goat's neck, and the goat is like,
Well,
oh my
not
god.
no, not okay. Nor like it's not always the it's not always the neck. It is in the other examples, it is like on like the arm or something, and then there's like one time where it's the neck, and that's like the
Right,
escalation
but
of.
the neck is the part that I think is more pertinent to the specific
No, it
discussion
is.
that
I
we're
just
having. But that one, I would say, I would that one I think is a little different because like the goat is like excited by it and fine. Like obviously, like there's a risk to it,
yeah.
but the goat is like, damn, I'm kind of horny right now, Like, and you know what? Good for you, man. Like people are into this stuff. Like it's fine. Like I think it's good that there's stuff like stuff that's transgressive out there, right? Like,
Sure.
you know, I I want to see the, Chad's Hellraiser Blood and Cummies movie, like I think that would be awesome. But, it's also like I understand, like I think it was Alex who mentioned like just, not like being super not finding that super enjoyable, and that's like also fine. Like it's
And
Yeah.
I mean,
I
for
think
me, I'm
your
kind
mind's
of
gonna vary with stuff like this.
Oh,
it's just
absolutely.
interesting that it's the first story in this thing because in a way it
Oh
like
yeah.
sets the tone. So in a way, like if you can get past the first story, you're kind of like it's at. I mean,
This came
mileage
up
will
in a
vary.
lot of reviews that I read in preparation for this. Was people like being like, I was almost put off by this being the first story, which like I definitely get. I feel like um the average BL audience would probably not be phased by this, which like I don't even consider myself the average BL audience, because I also in going back and rereading this, I was like, oh, I kind of forgot that there was a love potion story in this very first chapter. But also I don't know. Anyway, like it's definitely, I understand it being off-putting because it is off-putting. Like there is an inherently off-putting nature to the idea of trying to make someone want to love
Except the
you.
transgression is exciting, right? And I feel like that's a big part of a lot of these stories, is that like you're reading it and you know that what the characters are doing is transgressive and, maybe morally dubious, but like that's part of what makes it exciting for people, right? Like, and that's that's cool.
Yeah.
That's like fiction gives you like the ability to do that
Hmm.
in ways that obviously, you know would never be able to do in the real world, which is, so it's fine. Like,
Yeah, and that kind of gives me a little bit of a segue into Chad. I don't mean to put you on the spot here, but we kind of talked behind the scenes about how the most recent ContraPoints video about Twilight kind of changed uh your view on like romance as like a genre of fiction, and I feel like that's kind of relevant to this book, because they're like I watched almost all it's a 3 hour video. I watched 2.5 hours of it today while I was working on packing, so I didn't finish it, but there is a lot of talk about like transgressive sexual fantasies and like the utility of them, and like why people are interested in romance, and the like you like having a change of opinion on this subject, like kind of in conjunction with us reading this book, I was interested in.
Yeah, I think part of it is to
Because
alter
but
expectations.
just to preface for the audience, you're not a romantic or sexual person, so
No.
a book entirely of little romantic stories is not necessarily like the most relatable thing for you to be looking at.
Right. And so I guess I'm looking at like the way, like when I first went through Twilight many years ago, I had a similar reaction as a lot of people were like, well, nothing happens and the characters are boring. I don't get why people like this. And it's like, oh, well, you're not supposed to take a lot of this literally. You're reading this wrong. It's about uh, desire. It's about granting permission and being given permission to experience that desire without feeling guilt. And so, like the second story, especially, obviously fits into this mold with the predator prey thing. And it's like it's not really about the wolf biting the hare. It's about the wolf desiring,
The
not the
goat.
hare, the goat. The wolf desires the goat, has feelings for the goat. The goat has feelings back, and they're both not sure how to grapple with that. And so just like the sleep walking bits, the sleep biting is a metaphor for all of this. And so it's like, okay, when you look at it that way, this is actually a lot more interesting, because they're ultimately both looking for permission to express how they feel to each other. Uh, but they don't ever cross the threshold to actually do it. The goat jumps on a broom and leaves, and the wolf feels bad. And I think that is a more inherently interesting story than the literal plot elements that happen in the story.
I would like to maybe elaborate for the audience who may not have watched the ContraPoints video, which is fine. But the what we're specifically talking about is like the nature of certain tropes in romance novels, like bodice rippers, of like books that include a like the female love interest character, or the female object of desire character being like physically dominated, or like kind of put into the position of being at the whims of the dominant male character, and that being a way for a lot of especially heterosexual women of like being able to express feelings or desires related to sexuality that don't necessitate them being the inciting party, because women historically, sociologically, are not supposed to be sexual, so they are supposed to be the objects upon whom sexual things are performed upon. So like the idea is women indulging in a fantasy that allows them to engage in the type of sexual behavior that they would like to, but without having to take any sort of quote unquote ownership of it, because taking ownership of female sexuality is tantamount to being a whore. But anyway, yeah, that's kind of like there is a bit of that like going on with the like predator prey dynamic of the characters in chapter 2. And I mean honestly, I would argue that there's also a bit of that going on in the first chapter, with like the love potion being like an excuse for one character to actually express their feelings towards another character, and to be able to have that other character reciprocate that in a like fantasy sort of scenario, because this is fiction.
It also feels like in
Right.
this context, it's barely a metaphor. Like most of that stuff is textual in this
Sure, yeah.
book, in these
Yeah.
stories. I think, like the characters straight up say that, right?
Yeah.
Like that's like it's not particularly subtle.
Sure.
This is
No.
definitely a like I've met writers who are subtle and they're all cowards type of
Yeah.
comic, right? Like
Yeah. No, this book is not subtle. I will definitely say that. Because it's
And
not
then,
trying
like,
to be subtle. That's not the
Yeah.
aim of this sort of fiction.
like the story with the lizard and the deer. I mean, it's the same thing.
See, that
The
one might be
lizard
even
need-
more fucked up.
Right, the lizard needs to cuddle with the deer because the lizard is cold and will die if he doesn't. But also, the lizard probably wants to cuddle with the deer because it is a gay romance thing, and so there's permission, and no one should feel bad about wanting to cuddle with the sexy deer boy, and that's. I don't know if that's interesting, but it is like, oh, okay, I'm seeing kind of the pieces of how this is put together, and it kind of makes sense. I mean, my immediate thought is, why is this school not like inclusive to cold-blooded creatures?
That's not the point.
It's like schools are supposed to be wheelchair accessible in the real world. I would imagine that lizards need their own kind of accessibility. But like you said, that's not why we're here.
I mean, actually, that's like a really good point that I didn't even think about. I just like assume like that's just not the point of the story, but like accessibility in institutions is a real problem.
I think what threw me off is the as far as like not being able to see through the cracks was the story with the two bats, and it's not because it's an incest story because they're brothers. It's more because they're depicted as being so young that it feels really weird to read this kind of I don't know, sexually charged story with characters that naive. Like I'm like, okay, this doesn't feel right, not because they're vaguely, I mean, pretending to be related, but because they're like really literal children.
Yeah, weirdly, the BroCon is the least weird part about this story.
Yeah.
But yeah, twincest BroCon type stuff is definitely a prevalent trope in BL. I 110% forgot that it would like there were like I remember there being weird stuff in this book a little bit, but like I totally forgot about this chapter. And it is definitely like I don't know, I would say it's my least favorite chapter, which is unfortunate because I really like the designs of the little bat guys. I think that they're very cute, and I think that like they are very aesthetically pleasing to look at, but I think the story is
Emily wants to fuck the bats. Confirmed.
no. I think that they have good character design as an artist.
I want Ozzy Osbourne to show up and show those bats how to
No!
how it be.
No, just because they're weird doesn't mean you should tear their heads off. But no, like, I find like I don't know that that's definitely the story that appeals to me the least, and I think is the weirdest, and also like I don't know that it's the most rooted in its like animal nature, but it feels the most drastic, and which I guess it doesn't. Maybe that doesn't sound right in comparison to the wolf and goat chapter, but
See, this one is like the most normal to me. It's like
yeah, this is normal for you.
Well, yeah, it's like two
Go on.
Yeah, I always be vomiting in my bros' mouths. You know how it goes. No, but I mean like in terms of like what's portrayed here, like it's fairly standard, like, people like two characters who are like going through puberty and learning about like attraction and stuff. Like it feels very normal to me. Like it doesn't have like
it.
Well, sure, that's fair, but it's like there's no like insane like, power differential being abused by one of the characters. It's just like two guys who are like best friends, and like they they start learning about like having romantic feelings and stuff, and like yeah, like that start like they're bats, and so like I guess that part is weird. The part where they like throw up in each other's mouths is a little weird, but that's like normal for bats. I don't know. Like it's just this one felt like oddly. This one and I don't like this one nearly as much as I like the bear one, but those two felt oddly like, oh god, they're just like this writer like has touched grass before. They're not like, you know, he's not like online just reading fanfic all day. You know, again, not a value judgment. I've been there. I've been there. I've gone through periods where I've been online reading fanfic all day and haven't touched grass for months. It is what it is. But like this one is like this one feels much more grounded to me than the rest.
Fair enough. Did anyone else have an opinion before I move on to another question? Oh, I did put at the end of my question, should we cancel Nagabe?
Well, no, but I mean, I did have a thought on the lizard and deer one, but
yeah,
I like that's isn't like the point about like Chad like quipped about the inaccessibility, but like that's the point of like making institutions like that inaccessible, right? Like the whole point is so that it allows people like the deer to wield power over people who aren't like somebody like the snake, the lizard, right? Like I don't know, like that feels also weirdly grounded now that I think about it through that lens, right? Like it creates a reliance on somebody. It's very Foucault. You know, it's like it reminds me of like Foucault's discourses of power.
Yeah.
So like, but it just is, right? Like the whole idea is
pretend that I've never heard the phrase Foucault's whatever. Well,
it's just I mean, Power is just a book by Foucault. It's like you'll understand the concept is very basic. It's just that like anytime there's like an imbalance or an inequity, like it creates the ability for like someone to abuse. Like Foucault was a French Marxist who wrote about
I do know who Foucault is. I just like
but like that's what he writes about in Power is that like you know it's not obviously like what he's writing about is not as interpersonal as what's here, but like it is the same concept, right? Like there is like an inequity, and you know somebody takes advantage of that. It's a force relation basically, but it's not a force relation, I guess. But it's the same idea that like one of the characters is unable, like the snake is unable to basically live a normal life, and the deer is able to basically control them and have power over them because of that. So and then I get again, it's the same thing that we talked about previously. Like it's cool in a fictional setting.
Yeah, it does. Again, just I keep going back to the ContraPoints video because I did literally I finished up what I was watching of it right before I started getting ready for the show. But like there's a lot of talk in that video about like heterosexuality as like a cultural force, and like you know like the ideas of certain radical feminists about like the like capacity for women to consent to heterosexuality under power differentials that are not dissimilar from the power differentials displayed between like the different animals in this series. I think that
well, this literally happens in Twilight too, where Bella's cold and has to hug Jacob so she doesn't.
There is also like quite literally the same scene.
I mean, the Twilight fanfic.
Some of the building blocks in here are very tried and true building blocks as far as romance as a genre is concerned. And the only reason I can say that is because I watched that video, because obviously I do not read a lot of romance fiction.
I'm pretty familiar with romance, so I can kind of substantiate that.
We've had this conversation about Gideon the Ninth, Emily, where I'm just like,
True.
I don't understand this, and you're just like, well, it's because you're too ace. You don't get it.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Every time you complain to me about anything in that series, it's just because you don't understand lesbians, which is fine.
It's a good thing the spell mechanics in that are fun.
Did anyone learn anything about any animals from reading this book? Because there are the little end cards with the info about.
Oh, I didn't read those.
Yeah,
Aw,
totally skipped those.
nobody read those.
I
Normally,
read some.
I'm the one who
Dude,
doesn't
if I
read
wanted to
this
read
shit.
a Wikipedia, if I wanted to read a Wikipedia article, I'd read a Wikipedia article.
I mean, they were short, so I guess I didn't. Normally, I'm the
Yeah,
one
so I
who
felt like I
doesn't
could
read
skip 'em.
these, so I guess I just was hoping that maybe someone.
The
I felt
bat.
a little bad about
You-
skipping them, but I kind of just wanted to get through, especially because, like, literally on the last episode, I was talking about how I read the letters column of every Walking Dead issue that we read. But
You
no,
and I just switched this.
yeah, I was just like, I want to get through this. I've got fucking Halo to play.
I learned that unlike bunnies, hares are normally solitary animals, whereas bunnies normally live like in like colonies together.
Okay, so Emily, your persona is a bunny.
Yeah.
Did that inform a potential change in your persona?
No,
bunny versus hare.
It only reinforced pre-existing. It only reinforced my pre-existing connection to the rabbit as an animal.
There you go. See, it has more relevance to you than
Yeah.
it does to the rest of us. Like,
Yeah,
I'm not
well-
invested in like how I relate to animals in that way.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess it would be, I was gonna say I speak the most furry and then Chad speaks the second most furry, but I feel like it would really, like, there's like levels to, like, I feel like Chad and I have different strengths in terms of speaking furry, but you two
I'm
are
normal.
okay, so I speak the most furry.
Me too. I'm also normal.
Chad speaks the second most furry, and then John Luke and Alex speak the third most furry. By which I mean they speak non-furry, right? Third most.
Alex
furry.
has played VR chat with us though, so I feel like he's got a slight edge over Jean-Luc.
He's got like half a
I love-
point.
From the things I've seen, I get 2 points. All positive.
Nagabe has written other furry manga, which one of those I've read like half of, which is also, it's another like single volume story that I think is called Cobalt Blue. It's something blue, but based on this, would you ever consider reading another furry manga from Nagabe?
No.
Okay.
No.
No.
Fair. I didn't think so.
I did read some reviews, and I am interested in reading some of their other work, because the reviews are basically like, I read this and then I read that and it's nothing like that. What's going on? So I'm curious, because I know they said a lot of positive things about this other story.
I mean, I have heard a lot of really good reviews for their other like non-furry.
It's called
work.
The Girl from the Other Side.
Mhm.
Is the one that people are talking about.
Yeah. I mentioned that at the top of the show, but I haven't read The Girl from the Other Side, so I don't have any context for it. But I do think it's funny. I don't think the version that you guys read included the afterword, but I'm going to tell you that the afterword for this manga basically is the author saying that they wrote another furry manga before this, and people complained that, or people said, not necessarily complained, but said that the only thing non-human about the characters was the fact that they looked like animals. And so Nagabe was like, fuck, I gotta ramp up the animals in my next one. So that's why everything in this one is extremely animal based, is because like he was really trying to lean in on that. Also, in doing research for this show, for this episode, I found out that the author of this manga is like 4 months younger than me. I don't like that. I'm not about it. I don't like this at all.
Emily
I'm in
also
a
has
time
the
loop.
Emily also has the memory of a rabbit, apparently.
Oh, did I say that earlier? That's fine.
You opened with that.
I mean, look, I didn't write it in my notes, so like.
No, but we are gonna bookend this then, and I do appreciate a good bookend.
It's
Exactly.
thematically appropriate.
No, it's been an entire hour since I said that earlier, so I can't be expected to remember what I said an hour ago. But also, I didn't write it down, so but I'm just very upset that this writer is younger than me.
I'm older than you, so
I know.
you
so
keep
you should
saying
be
that
even
and it
more
hurts
upset
me.
than me.
See, I have this relationship with Taylor Swift, who's like a couple months different in age from me.
Okay, so she's still older than me. I'm still fine with that. But most importantly, in this afterword,
Wow.
aside from wanting to ramp up the animal comparisons in their next book, Nagabe said that he wanted to use this book to show people that maybe even if you aren't a furry, you can enjoy furry stories. And I know that this didn't work for all of you, but I feel like it worked for other people because this book is like fairly well reviewed among people who actually enjoy reading manga. But
I enjoy reading
Your opinions
manga.
don't count.
but I do think it's funny that like this book is like I had not read the afterword before because when I read this the first time I just got to the end and I was like, well, I'm done. But I wanted to try and be a little more diligent, so I actually read the afterword for this episode, and I thought it was funny that this is just the author's furry agenda in a book. I don't know. That's all I got. That's we've been talking for an hour about the furry manga. That's all I got. Any final thoughts?
It did not make me a furry.
That's fair.
Oh, you'll get them next time, Emily.
Not with a manga, I don't think. I'll have to find a good Western to go with.
Anya Taylor-Joy needs to get a persona, and then
I'm done
I
with the
can make
Anya
some-
Taylor-Joy thing. I'm over it.
On God?
wow,
Until
what
you watch
happened?
Furiosa in May,
I
and
was-
you're back on the train.
Alex,
No,
I was literally about to make that same joke.
That's the reason I'm off it. That movie looks fucking terrible.
I mean, the trailers for the first Mad Max were like, yeah.
I
Not
don't
the
think
first
I've
Mad
ever
Max.
seen a trailer for Mad Max Fury Road, so maybe
Oh.
you're right, and the movie will rock.
And look, unfortunately, like on the one hand, I will say that I've never felt as hype as I did in a theater seeing trailers for Mad Max Fury Road, but also like I have warmed up to the Furiosa trailers, so
I didn't even know there was one.
There's two.
yeah.
Oh,
I only saw
shit.
one.
There's a Alien Romulus trailer now too.
There is.
Oh, I haven't watched that
I have-
yet.
I have
but I
opinions.
saw the.
What is it?
I saw one of the Furiosa trailers before both Drive Away Dolls and Love Lies Bleeding, which know your audience.
Is it Chris Pine or which
Pratt.
Chris is?
No, it's
No,
Hemsworth.
Chris
That's-
Hemsworth.
Yeah.
The shit that he's doing in those trailers looks fucking awesome. That seems really fun. I'm excited for that, but like
Uh-huh.
the fact that most of it looks like a shitty CG does not excite me.
Look, the CG does not look good yet. I'm hoping that that's just
Yeah, the movie's out in a month. Like I'm not I'm
I'm
not
just
optimistic.
hoping-
We'll see.
I'm-
We'll see.
I'm just hoping it's a bad trailer.
I hope that when it comes out, I mean, I'm still going to be there day one, and I hope that when I'm there day one, that I'm, eating crow about how the movie looks. But
And if it's bad, I'll be the one eating crow. So at least one of us will get enjoyment out of this experience somehow.
I just go into everything with like measured expectations now. It's a better way to be.
What
I should
unit
learn
of
how to do
measurement?
that.
Inches.
Oh,
Uh,
you American system.
Yeah.
fuck.
Do you guys hear that sound?
Alex, do you hear it?
No, what is it?
Oh, it's the sound of the doomsday clock. I guess
Oh,
you're not one of the chosen. It's fine.
Well, I'm over 30, so I can't hear it.
That's not true. So
Chad, did you hear it?
I hear shit.
This
See?
is the sound of the you can't hear the doomsday clock once you have lost your ability to believe in the magic of Christmas, actually. So this is the doomsday clock, and it is signaling it's our time for our first ever Cry Space, where we highlight something in the past interval between episodes that made us cry. So does anyone else have an offering for the Cry Space to go first?
I mean, I'm pretty upset that Jean-Luc's over the Anya Taylor-Joy thing. I thought I recognized and knew my friend Jean-Luc, and now I've realized his whims change like the sea, and I know nothing.
Well, apparently you don't read my tweets enough, because like a few months ago I posted about how I was getting over it. So
I didn't see
I'm
that
trying to
tweet.
stay off of Twitter ever since the oopsie daisy I had with that one card company. My Twitter's been on lockdown, and since it's on lockdown, I don't want to tweet because there's no one to read them, and so I've just kind of not been opening Twitter as much.
Fair
it's
enough.
okay. I'm just like, I got really into this new indie actress. You guys might have heard of her. Like nobody really posts or talks about her. Her name's Sydney Sweeney. Anyone know about this woman?
Wait, did you see Immaculate?
I was too busy playing PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds over
Oh.
the weekend.
That's what year is it?
So, hold on, what?
Yeah, every year,
In
one of my good friends and I do a little check-in on Brendan's beautiful game. We go on an island vacation and we play PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. And we played it 2 days in a row, and it was a fucking blast because that game still rocks, as it turns out.
Last year when
Yeah,
I played
honestly, PUBG rules.
with you and Roshan, I was like lost in like I've never been so lost in a game, and it's like I'm like, well, why is it so poorly optimized? Why can't I see people? You guys are like, oh, that's the game. We love this game. And
No,
it's like,
there's a feature now where like your gun is like auto loaded and the attachment's like auto equip. And the first thing I did was turn all that shit off. I'm like, they made this game for fucking babies, dude. Like,
maybe I'll give it another go now.
Jesus Christ! Like,
oh yeah, because it took me like 30 minutes to figure out how to load my gun. You guys were like, oh, press this, and you guys like, oh no,
right.
we rebound it for something else. Huh.
Well, it's not that complicated, and I like that feel, and they put us in like the fucking piss elo lobbies because we haven't played in like a year, and so we were just like racking up kills. It was great. It was a lot of fun.
Hell yeah.
That's my cry space. It was I got emotional. I was returned to spring summer 2017, and it reminded me of better times when I would stay up until 6:30 a.m. playing PUBG.
Were you into Anya Taylor-Joy that time, or is that before?
Oh yeah. No, yeah, because I probably had just seen Thoroughbreds at that point.
Yeah.
And so I think that was like the beginning of my infatuation with Anya Taylor.
I forgot about that movie.
Good movie.
Very good movie.
That's all right.
Alex, do you have a cry space?
I'm very burnt out this week. My energy's very low, and it's only Monday. But I asked people to be in my wedding party over the weekend, and they all said yes, except for my brother, who I'm gonna give him the Speed Racer frisbee disc to ask him, but that's not happening. I'm gonna throw it to him like this, and then he's gonna catch it. And I'm gonna say, "Here's looking at you, kid," and then I'm gonna have a big X on my head, and then I'm gonna say, "But I'm not your brother," and yeah, that's her.
I love this. I'm so glad. I'm so happy
That's
about
amazing.
this.
And my other happiness is being on the show, even though my energy has been so low today, and I'm just like, but yay.
Aw.
I felt bad that you didn't talk as much, but I was like, I mean, it's also fair. We're talking about gameplay manga.
In any other week, I would be more, and not because of the book, but Chad.
You got to
You
hear
already
Alex
go?
when we finally do all of 52 in one episode. It'll just be like Alex talking for 90% of the show.
True.
We're saving it. What's your cry space, Emily?
I already went.
I said Emily. I didn't
That's
say Chad.
not your name, Chad.
Oh, I thought you cut out a bit. I thought I heard.
My cry space is that I was fully prepared to hire a service to come in and help get my house clean before we move out so I could get my full security deposit back. No problemo. But they didn't have any openings this week, and I move out on Saturday. So my cry space is that I have to clean my house, that my wife and I have to clean our house by ourselves. And I'm not happy about it. But
I cleaned my house. I cleaned my apartment yesterday. It's not that bad.
I have to like get this 3-bedroom house to a way that a landlord is going to say this is clean enough to give you your money back.
You can also see my entire apartment right now, so
yeah, I have
Oh
a lot more like square footage that I'm gonna have to clean than you.
Is this the normal view you have? Because I feel like normally it's the other side.
I moved my my computer desks
This
to
was
the other side of my apartment. They were over there.
This was
looking at my kitchen, and now I'm looking out the window now.
This was the view you had last time, I think,
huh? Well, the last time we recorded, or
yeah, like that was just like last week, huh?
No.
Or did you?
Well, just yesterday. Yeah, I moved everything.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
I keep waiting for something to rush through that like hallway door behind Jean-Luc and kill you like in a Kane Pixels thing.
Yeah, we need like a jump
enough.
scare.
I wish something would fucking kill me. That would be so
You know how they
sick.
have that movie with the Skype call that like is cursed or whatever?
Unfriended, yeah.
Yeah. Do they have one about podcasts, or is that like too niche?
Did they do one about
honestly,
podcasts?
I feel like you could do an unfriended about a podcast
It's like
recording.
you have your sound bar, and then a different theme music plays that's not your podcast.
Like,
It's like,
yeah.
what's that sound?
It's
or like things start playing from the soundboard that you didn't put in there.
Oh, no. Okay, so there's this great bit in Unfriended 2, actually.
Oh, I haven't seen Unfriended 2.
There's a sequel?
It's not a... It's
Yeah.
not
Don't say Unfriended 2.
Unfriended 2 is way better than Unfriended 1.
Wasn't it like Unfriended
to
2 the dark web or something?
Unfriended to the dark web, yeah. It's about a guy who finds
I
haunted
don't want to say the dark world, but that's Thor 2.
Yeah.
That's the
He
best
finds
Thor movie.
like haunted
Yeah, it
Minecraft
is.
that's operated by... Anyway.
Haunted
There's-
Minecraft? Okay, I may have to watch Unfriended 2 the dark web.
There's a bit in the movie where... So spoilers for Unfriended 2, but there's a bit in the movie where the people who are the villains who are killing off the main cast, they call the cops on this one guy who's in his basement with his computer set up. And they go into his computer and take over the speakers, and they play sounds of him like loading and cocking a shotgun. And then a SWAT team rolls down the staircase and just blows him away. It's fucking awesome. It's
that sounds so dope.
It's so sick.
Okay,
Unfriended 2 rocks.
I may have to watch Unfriended 2.
Dude,
the dark web.
Unfriended 2 is kind of awesome.
I liked the first Unfriended movie. Unironically, I don't remember if I've told this anecdote before, but I went with like someone I was dating at the time to see the live action Cinderella movie, and we got like half an hour in, and I was like, this is fucking boring. So I pulled up my phone and I looked to see what other movie showings were showing very soon, and we just walked across the hall to watch Unfriended and watch
that's sweet.
the entirety of Unfriended, and that was like a way better movie watching time.
I'm not a big Unfriended 1 fan. I like the blender scene.
Yeah, I mean that is the best scene, but it was just I
That's
wanted
a good Eve 6 song.
literally anything else, and I was surprised by how much I liked Unfriended.
No, Unfriended 2 is awesome. You should watch it.
I will definitely check this out. Yeah, put your hand in a blender, just like Eve 6 said.
Yeah.
Also, before I go into our plugs to play us out, I will say my favorite Twitter bit is every time a hot celebrity says or like announces that they're getting divorced or they're single or whatever. The lead singer or the front man for Eve 6 tweets from the Eve 6 Twitter account, insert name, do you like alternative rock? As a way of shooting his shot. And
he hit up Giselle Fetterman or what?
I'm like, he's done it every single time someone has tweeted about getting divorced or getting like breaking up. So I'm confident that it'll happen, but it's my favorite Twitter bit, and I think we should actually just delete all of Twitter, and the only people that are left are Eve 6 and the menswear guy. Those are the only
and 7 feet deep in Shy Hulasi.
Oh yeah, sure, John, you can stay around. But if you want to follow this show on the internet, you can do that at Crying Book Club on Twitter. You can rate and review us 5 stars on your podcasting platform of choice. If you want to follow John Luke on the internet, you can do that on Twitter at Mountain Dew Liker or on Letterboxd at JL Botville. Alex can be found on Twitter at Alex Hansiak. I can be found on Twitter at MPandanata, on Letterboxd at Pandabor, on Twitch at Pandabor, and with the following podcasts, Imagine Me and You Should Know the Fresh Podcast Market, and That Looks Terrible. And Chad, I would like to note, I wrote all of Chad's plugs from memory. I did not have to look up any of these when making the notes. Chad can be found on Twitter at Anonymous Band. The podcast, Opinions Are Cheap, with Cameron and Chad. Books can be found by searching Chad Waller on Amazon.com. Writing is on anonym.wordpress.com. Music is on anonym.bandcamp.com. And his game can be found by searching The Land of Glass on Steam.
Sorry to do a segue again, but is the full name of the podcast actually Opinions Are Cheap with Cameron and Chad?
That's just our
it should be.
tagline.
Yeah, it's Opinions Are Cheap, but every time they introduce the show, they say it's Opinions Are Cheap with Cameron and Chad, and I just like that.
Tim
as a
Cameron
full title.
says that.
Yeah, I just enjoy it.
I say it too sometimes.
I enjoy it.
When I remember to introduce us.
It's like 50% of the time there's no intro for the first 10 minutes,
Yeah.
and then 50% of the time it's Chad, and then 50% of the time it's Cameron, and then 20% of the time it's the guest.
Yeah, it shockingly, despite the fact that was the show that actually has intro music, and the comics podcast did not have intro music. The comics podcast consistently had more of an intro.
It's true.
The comics podcast was the most low effort thing I think I've ever done in my life. And I met 3 of my best friends because of it. So you know what? It paid off.
You know, I'd say it was low effort, but I edited like
it was not low effort for you.
300
You
of those
had the most
episodes.
effort of anyone on the show who can say that it was not low effort. That was you.
Yeah. Hey, I put together a list of all the books we were going to talk about every week. That
You
counts.
did.
for something.
You were pretty
I
good
was
about
there
that.
too, and I have great friends. Ooh.
And Alex has an encyclopedic knowledge of Opinions Are Cheap, and
That's true.
Invaluable.
It's true.
Alex is like the fandom wiki for Opinions Are Cheap.
Alex
just
is the
inside of his
Opinions Are
head.
Cheap scholar, and God
I'm
bless.
on episode 255 of my re-listen. I was hoping to catch up for 300, but they're like an hour long. Why?
I know.
Wait, what episode are you guys on now?
A lot.
315? Maybe less? Let's see. This is very
I
important.
don't remember.
This is very important. But bye,
We didn't do one
everybody.
this week. Cameron wasn't feeling well. 303.
Damn.
We
Oh,
did
the
the
big
artistic
one was-
merits of
'cause-
Sparkle Dogs.
Oh yeah, that's
Richard won
literally
big
like
300th.
next up on my podcast playlist on my phone.
It was funny. Heather were at work is like, I haven't listened to your podcast in a while, and I was like, oh, don't. She's like, why do you talk about me? And I was like, no, they've just been really bad lately. And I just don't want her to listen to the artistic merits of Sparkle Dogs. Like, fundamentally, do not
It's a
want
banger.
that.
You should
I learned what a
definitely.
Sparkle Dog was.
You
That
should
was
definitely
cool.
tell her to listen to this one.
Yeah, for sure.
No.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
But also, everyone listen to Opinions Are Cheap. Learn about Sparkle Dogs.
With Cameron and Chad.
Everyone, no. It's more about learning life. That's why you should listen to Opinions. Are
No,
Cheap
I
with
just
Cameron
meant-
and Chad.
You should check out that episode, and then you will obviously want to listen to the rest of them after you listen to that one.
My
Of
favorite
course.
one of recent, well, not recent memory, but re-listening was the one where you guys ranked cartoon women. That one was.
Oh, God, that was a while ago.
Honestly,
yeah,
we should
yeah.
replace Jordan Peterson with Cameron and Chad.
It's so true,
Oh.
bestie.
I have
Who's a
way
good
more-
role model for young men? My friend
Chad
my
Waller.
friend Chad and his friend Cameron.
Oh yeah.
I'm always saying this.
Every
We
time I
only
see
did
that,
episode because Saber Spark did that exact thing, and I was like, Cameron, this will be really funny. And then like 10 minutes in, we're like, this is the worst thing we've ever done. And then we just proceeded to do it for another hour and 10 minutes.
Yeah, it was really good. I have
It was-
listened to that
it was-
episode. It was really good.
I've been ranking the episodes I've been rewatching, and that's a top 50 episode.
Hell yeah.
That's all.
Oh,
I'll
yeah?
say. Oh yeah.
the most recent episode.
I hope you
No,
cut
no,
all
no.
this. We're at an hour 38 on this recording, and that's a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're
I
gonna
mean,
we gotta.
Yeah, John Luke's gonna
I
cut this
have to edit
out. It's
this.
gonna be fine.
I'm not gonna cut this out.
Well, no, I
He's gonna cut the rest of the show out.
yeah,
Mm-mm.
gonna cut all the rest of the show and leave in this. Anyway, that's the show. Bye, everybody.